Okay, guess we're doing this. Lucid Dreamers, what's good? It's late at night, but I promised myself I was gonna do this, so here we are. I wanted to share my journey with this book that I got called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And it's a book, but it's also a 12-week course. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the book, it's a book and a course that kind of helps you get back to your creative self, right? The book refers to it as the artist child. And I love that so much. And I've always been like really intrigued with this book, really drawn to it, but I never like stepped out to actually get it until recently. I saw an artist that started blowing up a lot more in 2024 called Dochi. Dochi did this course and she put videos of her and her journey doing this course up on the internet. So I thought that was a really cool concept, getting to see her go through the motion of doing this. And she is one of the most fearlessly creative people that have come out recently. And that's one of the things that I admired about her. And just knowing that she did this was the final straw on the camel's back that got me to actually start this course. So yeah, I was really excited to start it, and I just wanted to track this so that I can also go back one day and just look back at how I've grown from the course, you know, if I grow from the course, if I change, if this changes me, just following that path. So here we are. So every week I have to do like a check-in. I have to do like a check-in, and I just thought, like, why not do that digitally and just put it up and just share my experiences in this journey with all of you. So let's go. I just completed like week 1, and I told myself I would I'd go from Saturday to Saturday, but I think I'm gonna post this on Mondays. So Saturday to Saturday is my weeks. So I'm gonna post them on Monday for y'all to see. And yeah, so week 1 was recovering a sense of safety. This week initiates your creative recovery. You may feel both giddy and defiant, hopeful and skeptical. The readings, the tasks, and exercises aim at allowing you to establish a sense of safety, which will enable you to explore your creativity with less fear. I love that. And what I can say is, going through week 1, I definitely felt a lot of skepticism, a lot of, bro, just why are you reading a book about it? Just make stuff, right? And what I can say is that by the end of it, it was only after I completed the week, like at the 11th hour, that I felt like, oh, okay, job done. Like, that was it. I didn't even know I had issues with having a sense of safety in my art anymore. I've been doing it for so long that I thought I was super comfortable with it. But the more I went through this week, the more I realized that there were so many things that I didn't even realize I had to work on. So in reading the book, it gives you, I call it homework, it gives you a lot of tasks to do, right? So something that I'm going to have to doing every day is writing 3 pages of what she calls the morning pages. So 3 full pages every single day when I wake up, 3 full pages. And every week I have to take myself out on an artist date. And I remember, like, the first time I heard about that being a part of the system, that I think that was the most intimidating. That was the most intimidating thing about this whole course. But actually going through it and like doing it, it starts to feel a lot more natural. But I'm only on week 1. I don't know how it's gonna feel later on during the course. But I spent the greater part of the week, thinking to myself, like, why? Why am I doing this? I couldn't even come up with an artist date to go on, all of that. And what ended up happening, where the spark happened, is I spent all week trying to figure out what my artist date should be. Oh, I should go here, I should go there. Let me find a restaurant and do this, and let me find a museum and go there, and And I spent so long on it. Eventually, I realized like you're usually not this indecisive. Something's wrong. You're trying to force something right now that you don't want to do, right? The purpose of the artist date is to fill up your cup, your creative cup. We pour out so much of ourselves every single day. How often do we take the time to be by ourselves and spend time with ourselves and refill the cup of our own being? And so that was really important. That wasn't the issue with me. So I had to realize that the issue isn't with me not wanting to do the artist date. It's with me wanting to go out there. And it it clicked when I remembered that Julia refers to your artist self as your artist child. And then I started thinking about what did I like doing as a kid that I haven't taken the time to do in a very, very long time. And eventually I settled on making a blanket fort. So I covered my entire studio, like blanket fort, bought like my favorite snacks as a kid, fan of strawberry. It's not even available all the time. It's hard to find here. And watched cartoons and listened to my favorite album of all time. The album that actually got me wanting to make music in the first place, right? Like Exclusive by Chris Brown. Like that was the album that I would play all the time. This one time during school holidays, I was so bored every single day, and I used to complain to my mom every single day about how boring the holiday was. And one day she came home with a smile on her face, and she presented me with the Chris Brown Exclusive album. And I was so excited. She knew how much I enjoyed his music. And she got me the album, and I played it every single day on repeat until I went back to school. That's how I spent out the rest of that holiday. And I decided during that holiday that I wanted to make music. All from one holiday. Like, so that's what I did. I took the time. I used to take an hour out of my day every single day to just sing to my favorite music. So I did all of that, man. I did all of that. And it was during that time that I remembered who I was artistically, who I was at artistic birth, if I could put it that way, right? I used to write songs all the time as a little kid. I used to perform in front of the TV all the time. I remember this one time performing like Michael Jackson songs for my parents and my sister, like until I was covered in sweat. I was drenched. Like when BlackBerry was still a thing, I would always, they had BIS, so people had like free internet. So I'd always ask my mom every single time because I didn't want a BlackBerry. I thought like, nah, I didn't rate BlackBerry. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd always watch, and when my mom put down her phone, I would always ask her like, "Yo, please, can I use your phone?" Because I wanted to research like what is that like when I was watching Trace MTV, whatever, you'd like see the artist, the song name, the artist name, and then it would say something like Interscope Records, Universal, or RCA Records, Sony Music, or what is that? And who are these people, and like where did they come from? How did Beyonce get famous? And oh, she signed to this label. Oh, what is the label? And what does all of this mean? And what are the best vocal techniques? And what is range and vocal warm-ups and all of that? I used to research all of it. I used to be a self-taught student of the game. I used to be so intrigued, come home, get on YouTube, and spend the whole, okay, I won't lie, I was a little bit of a nerd. Come back home, finish my homework, get on YouTube, and just watch videos of my favorite artists and try to copy the way they sing and mimic the way they danced and all of that, man. And whereas I was so skeptical of this past week, I spending that time alone, allowing myself to be that version of me again, that version of myself, it brought me back to that feeling, that desire, that hunger, like being able to feel safe to do that. And it was all in spending time alone. And I'm gonna get back to that. But it wasn't just that moment. I went back and I realized that all the tasks that I'd been doing the whole week in my notebook, this is my notebook where I've been doing all my homework, had been leading up to that moment of clarity and of safety. And so the first thing that I had to do was I had to write out, I, Lucid Forever, am a brilliant and prolific artist, like 10 times, right? And when I did that, I had to take mental notes of what she calls blurts, right? And blurts are when you're saying these things or when you're writing them down, what are the negative thoughts that come back to you that kind of contradict that statement. And I had to note all of them down, and then I had to write affirmations that opposed those blurts. And those affirmations and blurts, I had to go back to them repeatedly throughout the week to to make sure I internalized where I was falling short mentally and affirm to myself the truth of what it really is, right? And I'm not going to read through all of them, but for example, one of my blurts was, I have to choose between my art and the people I love, right? And that goes back to me feeling like, man, if if I'm not working on music, or rather if I'm choosing to work on music, I'm letting all my relationships with the people that I love die because of the commitment that I have to show to this thing, to this art that keeps calling me, right? And on the other hand, the more time I spend, you know, with the people that I love and building a community and building a network of people around me, which I really love doing, these are the people that I love. I'm letting my dream die. And I didn't realize how deeply rooted of a blurt that was in my head until I had to write it down. And the affirmation that I wrote for that was, I live in a world of abundance in which I need not choose between the things and people I love. I get to fully experience everything that is dear to me. And just say that all the time, and believe that, because that is the truth of the world I live in. I don't have to choose. And so doing stuff like that, like, I didn't know that I felt unsafe in my creativity because of that feeling, and that I needed to reassure myself, I had to affirm to myself that that wasn't the truth, that there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to that. And so doing that and doing my morning pages and just letting out all of my thoughts, my mind races so much, and there's a lot going up like in here, like waking up and just putting it all on a page. It's almost like meditation. The way it has helped clear my mind, I don't feel as cluttered. I feel like I'm thinking clearly again, and it's allowing me to be myself more because there isn't as much noise going on in my head. So I love that. And the second thing that I had to do, the other task that I had to do, they called it time travel. Julia called it time travel. And the first time travel I did was listing 3 old enemies to my creative self. And what I found through doing this was so funny because I had to list 3 old enemies and then later 3 old champions to my music. And the craziest part for me was the first name I wrote down as an old enemy because it was someone really close to me. And I remember just spending my childhood just just really needing their support and assurance. And, you know, I really wanted them to tell me I was good enough, and they never did. They never did. And they ended up becoming my biggest supporter today. And I thought that was such a beautiful, just a beautiful character arc in my life that I never want to take for granted. You know, like my old enemies and my old champions all shaped how I think about myself as a creative. And, you know, the first old enemy I listed was someone close to me who would always tell me that I wasn't good enough. That, you know, this was something that I should just leave alone. Like, why am I chasing something that can never happen for me? And we had to write a story about a time where, like, she called it a horror story. Like, you write a horror story about a time when they made you feel that way. And I remember I wrote my story down, and I forgot, when I was writing it down, I forgot how much it affected what I think about my abilities as an artist and where my insecurities stem from. But being able to put it on paper and see it again made me realize that I could let go of that feeling. That was something that happened in the past, and I've grown from that. And I actually had to write like a letter as my artist child to that person, like, hey, you know, when you did that thing, you didn't know what you were talking about. So that was really freeing. My second old enemy is another person who's really close to me even till this day, who has told me on multiple occasions that my purpose here on earth is to live a life that is not fulfilling, in hopes that generations down the line they might be able to live out their dreams. Don't chase what you want in life. Like, just put your head down, live according to what is expected of you in like a cultural or societal context, right? Like the most vanilla thing that you could do that, so that hopefully your grandchildren or great great grandchildren or whatever, maybe they can choose to be whatever they want to be with their lives, but not you. You don't get that. And I've always been defiant in that. I've always stood my ground and told that person that I am gonna be so successful, man, in this life. I just feel it within me. I've always felt like I am gonna be so successful in this life. But at the same time, it hurts so much when someone that close to you tells you something like that, you know? You don't realize how much you're internalizing and carrying with you the more they tell you that. And you have to always push back, but putting it on paper again released that feeling from me. And then the third one, man, there was some kids in primary school. The one kid's dad had like access to studio time. It was primary school, bro. And they were going around. There was the rumor like, hey, we making a mixtape, man, it's gonna come out, and my dad's gonna let us do this, do that. So obviously, as an aspiring young musician, I'm like, hey, you know, let me see if I can be on the tape. So I went to the person whose dad owned the studio, and I said to him, hey bro, you know, can I be on the thing? And said, all right, cool, let's see what you got. And I won't lie, I did a little 2 bar. I still remember it, but I don't want to say it. I still remember it, and admittedly, you know, at the time, I get it. I get it. Like, it wasn't it. It wasn't it. But I still left, you know, like they laughed type beat. Like they laughed, but I still felt like, oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay, cool. You know, you're gonna do this to me. So that was also another old enemy that I think pushed me. I don't think I understood how much it contributed to me wanting to do so much by myself whenever I'm making art instead of collaborating with other people and always seeking out like, hey, this, that, and the third. I think historically, I've always felt like I had to prove myself and I had to prove like I could do it by myself and not need anybody else. And then when I went on to my old champions, it was just a bunch of people who were really close to me or are still really close to me. I don't even talk to all of them, but I think it it placed in me a new appreciation for the times when people do appreciate my art, right? And the people who pushed me through at a time where I felt like I was living in an environment where I didn't have support, where this thing, being an artist, wasn't a tangible thing. I didn't have that. I didn't have examples around me. I didn't have people to tell me I could do it. It was just me telling me I could do it. And then just having these people in my life and the things that they said about me, and I wrote it down, and I wrote a letter of appreciation to the first name that I placed down as my old champion, the person who I had previously written as my old enemy, is now my old champion and my current day champion. You know, I wrote a whole letter thanking them for a specific moment where they made me feel appreciated as an artist. And just going through all of this, man, going through all of this, and man, just writing that letter, I got emotional writing that letter because of how much that moment affected me. You don't realize how much you're carrying every single day from the interactions you're having with other people, which is why it's so important to just spend time by yourself, man. And that's what the artist date did for me. And I have a couple of examples in my life where there's people that I feel really close to who are really good at creating their own bubble or space, and they're intentional about spending time with themselves and when they spend time with other people, but they're always working, and those people always are so successful. And I know I don't feel a type of way about them spending time by themselves and, filling their own cups before they can come and spend time with the rest of us. But I can tell that I've always been afraid to do the same because like I said, I had that blurt that I didn't even know was in my mind, where I felt like I had to choose, and if I chose one way, it meant that even a month away from people would like completely destroy the connections I have with them. But I have to try and let go of that. And I wanted to ask people, like those people who are good at that, like, yo, how do you think about this, whatever, whatever, whatever. But this blog that I read, right? This blog that I read recently, and I'm gonna put the link in my bio, not in my bio, in the comment section. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I'm gonna put the link in the description. I loved it so much. It's almost as if, you know, I put it out there that I needed that, and it came back to me in the form of a blog that was called "What Sade Teaches Us About Absence." And I love it so much because the writer of this blog, I really like how they break down concepts. Every single thing that I read from them is really good. And I knew that this wouldn't be any different. I'm going through it and I'm realizing that like they're breaking down concepts that I have explored in my mind and seen Sade talk about in her own interviews and this, that, and the third. But the way they broke it down almost was like the final like domino, right? The final thing that pushed the domino over to make me feel reassured in in being intentional about taking time for myself to heal, to become better, to be myself, man, to live. So I love this one thing that she mentioned in the blog, where she spoke about a German philosopher named Martin Heidegger, who has this concept of being towards death, right? And the way she put it, she goes, Heidegger encourages us to explore the core essence of simply being by confronting our mortality and withdrawing from the distractions of everyday life. For him, solitude is not just a space for reflection, but a pathway to living more authentically. And I love that. I love that so much. It reminded me of this conversation that I had with my boy Kat. And this was maybe like 2023. We had this conversation and we spoke about mortality. And in that conversation, I realized that I always knew I was gonna die. But in that moment, I understood I was gonna die. And time became so precious after that. And I realized how much I was risk averse. I wasn't living with the audacity to live the life that I wanted. And I can tell I've been working on it day after day, building that audacity, building that confidence, that thing that's me living knowing that any day could be my last day. So why would I spend any moment living with a mask over my face? You know? Like why would I be inauthentic in any moment when I am going to die? Like that is assured. That's the one thing I do know. I just don't know when. So why waste a moment? Why waste a moment? And so and so that's that's supposed to be a scary thought to a lot of people. But to me, I feel so safe in that place. And I think it's also because I'm spending time alone and I'm being intentional about thinking about these things and, being me. Being me. And I always try to tell people, man, like the most powerful version of yourself is the most authentic version of yourself. That's who you were built to be. And Julia Cameron put it so perfectly at the beginning of the book. She has a quote that goes, "Leap and the net will appear." And I feel like for the past chapter that I've been in for a while, that just sums it up perfectly. Leap and the net will appear. And this book refers a lot to God and his connection to our creativity, as he is the great creator. And everything that we do comes from him, and everything that we are comes from him. And just connecting to that source. And when we leap out in faith, he is the net that catches us. And so I just want to live by faith and not by sight, and just keep pushing. And I'm so excited to do the next 11 weeks. The only other task that I had to do for week 1 was imagine, like, if I had 5 other lives, what would I do? And I wrote down inventor, game tester, NBA player, photographer, and astronaut, because those are all things that I really love. And, maybe in another lifetime, I almost wrote things like writer and actor and director and stuff. But I feel like those are things that I want to do in this lifetime. So I'm not going to put them for separate lifetimes. That's for now. That's what I'm going to do. I want to act, and I want to do all these things. And I always used to say to people growing up, I want to be a singer slash dancer slash actor. Slash, bro. Slash. So I'm coming for everything. And I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Because I remember who I am. And the more I remember, the less afraid I am to be who I am. I am who he says I am. So that's week 1. Really excited about week 2. Week 2 is going to be recovering a sense of identity. This week addresses self-definition as a major component of creative recovery. You may find yourself drawing new boundaries and staking out new territories as your personal needs, desires, and interests announce themselves. The essays and tools are aimed at moving you into your personal identity, a self-defined you. And I'm so excited to do that. I can already tell my mind is going in that direction anyway. It's going in that direction. The weekly check-in that I had to do was, how many days this week did you do your morning pages? 7 out of 7. Let's go. Did you do your artist date this week? Yes. I always got to do the artist date, and I felt great about it. Were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. And I think I already did. All those blurts, all those things that I didn't know that I was carrying that live inside of me. Done. So it's been great. And I can't wait to check in again next week and see where this journey takes me, man. And make more music and more art and just be out there and do my thing and live as me, man. Reminder that this isn't just for artists. I implore you, check it out. Check it out if you feel moved by anything that I've said. And I hope, my journey inspires people to, not get the book per se, but work on themselves and continue to be intentional, like make the decision to be intentional about being authentic in every day. Peace.